Swedish furniture maker Ikea has come forward in a public statement apologizing for using what it said was forced labor to build its products 25 to 30 years ago. The company did come out and say that it used what they call forced labor from Eastern Germany. What they did was they created this report to look into the allegations that this was happening from this had happened from human rights groups and other organizations. Now, the company released an independent report showing that East German prisoners were used to make furniture for them, which they called political prisoners. The report also concluded that Ikea managers were aware of the possibility that prisoners were actually being used in the manufacture of products and took some measures to prevent this, but they were insufficient. I frankly don't believe them when they say that. It's my opinion that this was a lot like when Apple said there were no slave labor conditions in the Foxconn factories building their products, and Steve Jobs publicly lied by saying that he was not aware of any harsh conditions that were going on and everything was above board and legal. Well, we now know that that was an absolute lie by him and Apple. We deeply regret that this could happen. The use of political prisoners for manufacturing was at no point accepted by Ikea. At the time, we didn't have the well-equipped control system that we have today, and we clearly did too little to prevent such production methods. Peter Betzel, the head of Ikea in Germany, said that they would continue to look into the allegations that political prisoners, forced labor, was used to manufacture products in the former Eastern Germany in the future. Now, quite frankly, I don't think Ikea has anything to apologize for. They've not done anything that many capitalist firms haven't already done. Many of them use prison labor to this day in the United States as well as many other capitalist countries. The problem here, the part that's making them look bad, or they're making it actually look worse themselves, is the obvious claim that everyone in jail in a communist country must be a political prisoner. Nobody ever breaks the law in a communist country, apparently, according to these people. Anyone who's in jail is, of course, just disagreeing with the government. Nobody actually breaks the law in communist countries, according to these people. Nobody rapes, nobody steals, nobody commits murder. The only thing you go to jail for, or the only crime anybody ever commits, apparently, is disagreeing with the government. Of course, this is absolutely ridiculous. It's insane. Given that human nature is apparently so bad, according to people like this, and then turn around and then are essentially insinuating that nobody actually breaks the law and only dissidents are actually punished. It's absolutely ridiculous. The fact is, prison labor is used widely in the United States today. In fact, to some degree, chain gangs still exist. Some states actually use prisoners to carry out the functions that unionized state workers actually did, like gardening, some kinds of repairs, and stuff like that. This is also labor that they're being forced into doing. So why is this not also considered forced labor? It's a complete double standard and it's complete hypocrisy. It's only meant as a means to slander communist countries, especially ones that now no longer exist and thus can't actually defend themselves. Although it would be very interesting, it is very interesting to bring up that the United States has the largest prison population, the largest percentage of its population in prison. Not only that, the United States contains most of the world's prisoners, despite the fact that it's much smaller than, well, the rest of the world. Why is this not being made a point? It has an extremely higher incarceration rate than even North Korea, and yet North Korea is considered to be a totalitarian regime that locks people up for disagreeing with the government. Yet here we have the country with the world's largest population of its citizens in jail and 25% of the world's prison population not being criticized for supposedly the same thing. I mean, that would logically track, correct? That if you had that many prisoners, that it would be a totalitarian evil state? But no. Everybody in jail in the United States, of course, is assumed to have been a really, really bad criminal who did nothing wrong. Because, of course, political prisoners only exist in communist countries. I mean, capitalist countries don't ever lock anybody up for political reasons, right? It would also be interesting to note that the majority of the prison population in the United States are ethnic minorities. Couldn't we just as easily assume that the U.S. is persecuting its minorities and locking them up in jail because they're heroic dissidents? We could. But it's just one of those terrible hypocrisies that come out as a result of capitalism and are never acknowledged by themselves or anyone else for that matter. So I think it's interesting to put this into perspective. Prison labor is used in the United States and it's called efficient. Prison labor is used in the communist country, it's called forced labor. It's a terrible hypocritical double standard. And frankly, given that this is almost an industry standard to use forced labor, I don't know how prevalent it is among furniture manufacturing, but in many industries it actually is used. So I don't think within the context of capitalism and what it considers to be right and wrong, that it should even apologize for even having done this, because I haven't done anything capitalism doesn't already endorse.